When the police were called, I was laying in his blood and they thought I was a stabbed baby. Ask Reddit on Reddit Rundown. Sons of prostitutes, how do you feel about what your mother did? A daughter instead, but honestly, I'm pretty effing mad about it. Not for the typical reasons either. My dad was her pimp and I have no idea if he was my biological dad. It would F me up so bad if he's not, as I grieved for him so hard. Me and my sisters would have to sit in my dad's car as he followed my mom around the city and to her clients' homes, or we would just sit right next to the dude's car as they did whatever. There were times she took a long time to get out, and when she did, sometimes she would be covered in bruises, blood, and her clothes would be torn. My dad wouldn't do anything about it, just drive to the street corner where she hustled and kick her back out the car after taking the money. It was a fucking horrible life for all of us except my dad, who made bank off of my mom's body. Edit. A lot of comments are asking why I grieved for my dad so badly. I have given more context to my story over a few comments if you would like to refer to those. If not, my dad took his life when I was young and I found his body. I had PTSD and had blocked the memories of what he did to my dad until about 3 to 4 years ago. Didn't think I'd ever see the day where other people would be talking about this. I am a son of a prostitute, and I've literally seen it all growing up. I can remember being left in a trap house and my mom telling me she'd be back in a few hours. Little did I know she wouldn't be coming back for a few days. I can vividly remember eating stuffed Oreos for days and hating them. For some odd reason I had strong mother-son bond with her, although she put me through the most difficult times. And it never really went out. I haven't seen her in about 10 years now. Through various prison movements, and coronavirus, she is seemingly unfindable. Out of all the crazy shit I seen because of her, I still feel sorry for her and love her just like I did was little. I truly don't hold any resentment for her actions anymore. I forgive her. Though, she put me through a lot. I wouldn't wish any negative energy upon her. Somebody replied, "You're a better person than I am. My birth mother was a prostitute. I've been left in plenty of houses with strangers, family, wards of the state, and group homes. Biggest difference for me compared to most is, for a few years I was brought along and would hang out on the streets with her, until around 6 years old. But I have very clear memories, unfortunately, and she would do her job in the back seat with me in the front. I have woken up more times than I can count from her screaming from the act, rapes or straight up abuse. I've made plenty of trips to abortion clinics and still remember the people attacking the cars of whatever John was driving. I'm pretty sure I am a product of said acts, as my father was never ever mentioned. I'm 36 now, and the only good side of all of this is I am untouchable. The amount of shit I have lived through, dealt with physically and emotionally, has made me so resilient nothing that happens now bothers me. Outside of that, I don't care much for her, and TBH, I don't really care where she is or how she is doing. I have blocked her a few times when she makes new Facebook accounts. We have not talked in over 10 years and I'm okay with it. Mom was a porn star in the 70s/80s. She did stuff with Ron Jeremy and the like. It was always a very taboo thing growing up, but my dad tried to prepare us for bullies at school due to the town being fully aware of what she did. No bullies. Mine didn't walk the streets, but she slept with men when we needed money or food. She hid it pretty well. We always thought these men were being nice and just giving us money. Now that I look back on it, it all makes sense. She passed 10 years ago and I am thankful to her for it. Bastard son of a Thai prostitute here, no idea who my real dad was, but luckily one of my mom's clients fell in love with her, married her and adopted me. When things went bad, he got custody of me and got me the fuck out of there. He was a terrible dad over the years, but I'm forever grateful for the fact I'm where I am now because of him. I'm now a dad myself and making sure I don't make any of the same mistakes. Edit. Adding here, since it's been mentioned I didn't actually answer the question, I don't see anything wrong with it. My problems with my parents come from them as people and not my mother's profession. My father had a long drawn out custody dispute with her. My mother had stabbed a guy. When the police were called, I was laying in his blood and they thought I was a stabbed baby. Beat me. At 3.5 years old I couldn't speak, was not potty trained. Was forgotten overnight at a forest preserve. Gotten shot during an armed robbery of someone's home at night. With her little sister helping her. Stabbed a second guy. Threatened to have my father assassinated and have his body used in a satanic ritual on Halloween. Lied about who my father was until I was 3. My father didn't know he had a son until I was 3 and she came to hit him up for money. He had to spend $60K to win custody. Won $20K today. After he won, she had visitation and lost interest in 6 months. I honestly don't remember her. I think maybe I met her once and she was dressed as a clown? With a soft fuzzy nose and not a hard plastic one. Sort of like the clown from the big comfy couch? I'm not sure honestly. She got even worse into drugs and alcohol. By the time my father reconnected me with my grandmother on that side when I was 15, my mother didn't want me to see her the way she had become. She died when I was 21 from a heart attack caused by a drug overdose. I'm not sure how to feel. I wish I could have had any memory of her. I'm not mad about my early life, I don't remember any of it. I mostly just have a mom-shaped hole in my life. You can't miss what you never knew, but you know it's not there. Edit. For those who don't believe, I'll upload some of the court documents I found in my dad's paperwork about the case. I'm not mad, the story is outlandish. I haven't even said everything, because some things are so crazy and unique that they would identify me to anyone who knows me. Also, I never really thought it was like Dexter. I thought it was more like Murderface's background from Cartoon Network's Metalocalypse. Edit. I also have an amazing mother-in-law. She's less huggy and more no-nonsense than I would prefer, but I love her all the more. She's the mom I wish I had years earlier. My mother was a prostitute in the Dallas/Fort Worth area in the 90s and early 2000s. I spent the majority of my time with her going place to place and watching it all unfold. I would carry about a little JanSport backpack with a NASCAR VHS, some action figures and cars, and everything seemed okay even though I knew it wasn't the normal of everyone else. Days would go where I would see my mom, or I would just kind of bumble around hitting up the 7-Eleven, stuffing candy bars into big gulps. It was a really odd childhood, but I did, and still do love my mother dearly. We had a strange bond in a motherson way, but I don't know it was odd as a kid, but I always knew mom would be there. We would normally get Happy Meals the day after and it was really rad. I struggled through my teenage years as I learned about sex and whatnot, people making your mom jokes, and it was just always hard to work through that. I still hold my mother in such high regard because I feel like she did the best she could for a drug-addicted prostitute. I'm in therapy now to work through that and other childhood trauma, and it's been good. Edit. It's actually been really nice and refreshing to share all of this with you. I have some writings I've been working on from this time. I would love to share them if anyone is interested. Also, some have mentioned doing an AMA. If people see interested, I'm down. I made this account just to reply to this very applicable question. It'll be a bit of a read, but I promise it all ties together. I spent a lot of time bouncing around places as a kid with my mom and dad. Dad was in and out of prison for violent crimes. Mom never had a job and kept jumping from boyfriend to boyfriend. I don't remember much of what happened in my life pre-age 10, other than the abusive stuff. My mother finally ended up meeting a man that was taking care of her and super nice to my siblings and I. He had her live with him but was unable to take my siblings and myself for reasons to be found out later. We got dumped off at my grandparents', mother's side, for almost a year. While living there we would be beaten with planks of wood for next to no apparent reason. 10 YO me, 9 YO sister, 8 YO autistic brother. We considered this fairly normal behavior since all we've really grown up with was abuse. So, it was never mentioned to my mom or her boyfriend. Near Christmas my mom and her boyfriend were planning on coming by to visit us and spend some time together. I got batteries for Christmas this year, nothing else from grandparents. When we had time with them alone, the beatings came up in conversation with my mom, her boyfriend and the kids. Screaming fight then occurred between grandparents and them. We were immediately scooped up from my grandparents' place by my mom and her BF, nothing but pajamas on and no other clothes taken with us. The next day mom's boyfriend takes us out clothes shopping, buys us whatever we want. Treats us to places like Chuck E. Cheese's, swimming pools, restaurants and all sorts of fun stuff nearly every single day. Around 11 years old I start to figure out why we're being kept out of the house so often. It was a brothel essentially. I was never a dumb kid, but I was always quiet and kept it to myself. Why mess up all these Chuck E. Cheese days? I didn't realize my mother was also one of the prostitutes working until certain days I had no choice but to stay in the house and hear her work in the room next to me. This life goes on all the way through to my high school years. Her boyfriend and her end up breaking up halfway through. My brother gets sent to live with a family that specializes in taking care of autistic children, and my sister is still with us. My mother is back to jumping around boyfriends but still working. What surprised me the most during all of this is that her ex-boyfriend, the pimp, decided to keep on taking care of my sister and I. He was never a strict father figure. I skipped school and did whatever I wanted. Yet, he was always there for me when no one else was. He would always give me money if I needed it, advise me when things got rough, and was the family that I always wanted. He was definitely not your typical pimp. Fast forward a few years and my mom has turned to alcoholism and is still working. She's staying in a place with my stepfather, this is what I call him now, and myself. I've turned into a fairly large man by this point, and every time she had a problem client, I'd be called in to kick them out, which was always fairly odd, but I didn't mind. I have a big trigger when it comes to violence against women, and I will absolutely not stand for it. Especially after my father would constantly beat my mother when I was a child. Remember those selective pre-age 10 memories I have? My biological father has become a paranoid schizophrenic and has for some reason started to take to spending time with me because he can relate to me now that I'm a man and not a kid that needed a dad. I blow him off eventually in a bit of a fit of rage about everything he's done and what he's never been there for. Haven't spoken to him in years. Now I'm nearing 30, no contact with either biological parent. I just got a house with my girlfriend and her family treats me with plenty of love. I still see my stepdad every week and talk to him all the time. He's older now and can't run the business anymore. I help him financially or with labor any chance I get, and I have absolutely no problems with this. This pimp is the best dad I could have ever asked for. I kind of wrote this on a whim and hope it's not too jumbled to read. As a TLDR for people asking for perspective on the son of a prostitute, mom slept with men in the room beside me. I had to kick them out when I got older. She was never there for me and cared more about partying and alcohol. I ended up bonding with her pimp and he became the person I care about most in this world. My dad. Edit. I've got to say I'm touched by the incredible amount of positive feedback here. There's obviously a lot I've had to cut for a single Reddit post. I just wanted to let everyone know I shared this post with my sister and all of your comments. She was never sure how I felt growing up and all of your support has been quite a surprise. A friend has a mom who is a meth head and prostitute. From his description, she's in rough shape, homelessness, ill health, $10 blowjobs in alleys. He is married and stable. He goes out 2 to 3 nights a week looking for her. When he finds her, he gives her money, gets her to eat, tries to get her off the street. Many times, she doesn't recognize him. I asked him why. It's futile AF, and he knows it. He said, "It's my mom, as long as she and I are alive, I can't stop trying." I found it pretty terrible at the time. I find it even worse today. Back when I was 8 years old, we had to move out from our house with my whole family because my mother kicked my father from the house he was paying the rent for. Living in France, we were able to get social help since she was a lonely parent without work and we could afford a small flat with a little food. Walls were very thin. What I mean by that is that, everything that would happen in the room next to the one you were in, you could hear everything. And my bedroom was in the middle of my older brother's and my mother's room. I could hear people entering the room, doing their stuff with my own mother before a few minutes of silence and another man getting in. And I heard that for 2 years until my mother found out I was diabetic, said that she couldn't take care of me anymore and kicked me out so that my father could take me back with him. I feel mostly terrible about what she did because she wasn't even using this money to buy my brothers and I essential things like clothes, food or anything. Instead, she was using it in gambling and her drug addiction. I never heard from her after that. And it's better this way. Edit. Thank you very much for all your messages, awards and such. Let me add something a little brighter to this story. As I told in the comments, Social workers came and asked my father to come pick us up and stay at his place for a few days. Sadly, after this she never accepted to see us again. But since I've been with my father, everything truly turned for the best. While I was living at my father's, since my mother wasn't paying anything for us, he was doing it. He bought us at the time clothes, consoles, laptop and bought me a phone after I got out of the hospital to keep contact with him. When both of my brothers graduated from high school, he bought them newer laptops for their studies, furniture and also gave them opportunity to reach for pretty good schools. We now own a house, I'm currently aiming for an English license, and while always having the support of my father. Things haven't been the best in the past. But I still have my father here who always supported me, no matter what happens. Thanks for listening to Reddit Rundown, give a thumbs up and subscribe, and help me get to 1,000 subs. Leave a comment below on what kind of topics or stories you would like to hear. You can also check out other videos on my channel. Thanks and have an awesome day.